What is up, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are answering the question, is an overland built rig like my 2019 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road a good daily driver? Stick around. So, is my Toyota Tacoma or any other oversized overland build a good daily driver? And I've kind of broken this up into a few different categories, and I'm going to address them one by one. The first is going to be the speed of the build. I think I've mentioned this in quite a lot of my other videos where I basically said this build took 7 years to complete. And I start with the speed of the build because I think the biggest thing that you'll notice about dailying a vehicle like this is if you jump straight into something like this, like buy a brand new truck, take it to a shop, have them outfit everything like this, it's going to be noticeably different. It's going to ride much more harshly than it would when it was stock. There's no arguing about it. When this thing was bone stock, it drove like a dream. I see sometimes stock trucks and I'm like, wow, it's so simple. It's, you know, it's low to the ground. And for a lot of people, they enjoy that. And if you jump to something like this right away, you're gonna be like, wow, this sucks. My fuel economy just tanked. It feels like a boat. You know, the tires are a little bit too big. There's a lot of road noise, things of that nature. So what I always say is kind of take the build slow. The process is gonna be a whole lot nicer and it's gonna drive a whole lot better at the end of the day if you take it slow. To me, because this build took so long, I guess, the truck drives great. I drive it every single day, even with the tent. I'll get into that in a little bit. But even with everything on there, I love the way this thing drives on a daily basis. I don't have 35s. I'm running all terrains on here. I'm not running mud terrains like a lot of people you'll see will do. And I think for the most part, it's a pretty compact package, as you can see. And it's not overboard, it's not overly built. I think for me, this is perfect for what I need it to do. And yeah, I think the first thing you should probably take into consideration is take the build slow, because at the end of the day, when you get it fully built up, it's going to drive a whole lot different. But if you take it slowly, tires one day, armor another time, accessories, the roof rack, bed rack, take it all really slowly, and you'll notice that the difference in how it performs on a daily basis is going to be a whole lot better. I think the second thing that I would probably say is going to be one of the biggest considerations when deciding whether or not you think a truck like this is a good daily driver is fuel economy. Kind of comes hand in hand with what I said before about the whole build as a whole, but it's really important to remember your fuel economy, right? You don't want to have something that's super sluggish, that's dragging you all over the place. And so for me personally, I live in an area where there's not too many hills. Although I'm in California, there's not too many hills overall, and that makes it for a really nice daily commute. I've said this a lot of times in other videos. I average about 14, 15, sometimes miles per gallon in town. When I get out on a freeway and go on a long road trip, usually averages around 16 miles per gallon, which isn't bad considering the armor, considering the rack, considering the tent, things I have on there full time. It's really not that bad. But if you are thinking, hey, I want to build out a daily driver that looks like this, I've had a lot of people say if I were to do it again, I wouldn't do a roof rack, or I wouldn't do a steel bumper, or I wouldn't do larger tires, things of that nature. For me, it works out really well. And I like that it's, like I said, it's not overbuilt, but it's just to the right amount of form versus function. And I think that's what anyone who's building a truck like this, who has this as their primary vehicle and doesn't have a secondary vehicle, should really be thinking about, because this thing's a dog. But at the end of the day, I'm not too concerned about it because I do fairly well in terms of fuel economy here in town. And if I were to change anything, I might go to a lighter tire and that's pretty much it. But it's definitely something to consider when you're building out a rig like this as a daily driver. So I think for the two first things, those both get checked off my list. I built it very slowly over time, and then of course I took into consideration while building it slowly, I made note of every single change and how that affected the drivability, mainly the fuel economy, and how that ended up converting into, you know, what I would consider a good daily driver, and how I would say that that kind of converts into fair fuel economy as far as a daily driver is concerned. So number three, I would consider to be probably one of my favorites. I think if you're building a rig like this, you have to consider what it can accomplish for you as a daily driver. For me personally, we utilize almost all of the accessories on the truck at least once a month. And sometimes we even utilize some of the other ones a little bit more. And I'm gonna get into that and just kind of take the camera here and show you guys what I'm talking about. But really taking into consideration, do you actually need everything that is on your overland build as often as you think you do? Because for me, like I said, I don't want to overbuild the rig, and I want to make sure that it's capable but useful. Capable, useful, that's the key phrase here. You want to make sure that it's useful to you in a day-to-day setting in a way that it's not going to become useless, I guess is the best way to put it. And you know, you just want to make sure that everything is getting used, and if you have things that aren't even related to the truck, you can actually use them in, you know, the event that you have to, you know, in an emergency, let's say. I know I'm kind of going off of my let's talk script here where we're just kind of rambling a little bit, but that is what I'm talking about. We're talking about reasons that, you know, this thing can be used on a daily basis with all the kit and gear that it has on it, and can also include some of the gear and kit that you put in it. So let's get into that real quick. All right, so an argument could be made that this would apply to a lot of other vehicles as well. But for me, this vehicle being like our primary do-it-all vehicle, my wife drives a RAV4. I've made a few videos on that in the channel as well. But for the sake of this video, I just want to kind of walk you guys around to the things that I do use quite regularly. We use this Midnight Forest water tank quite frequently. Let's see if there's air pressure built up in there. We came up from the mountains a little bit. We use that pretty regularly. I use it on and off the truck. I use it for things like cleaning projects, cleaning mountain bikes, things of that nature, cleaning off shoes. I haven't done that before, but it certainly could be used for that. And overall, that's an excellent tool. I actually just recently got these new caps, everything new here from Midnight Forest, so super stoked on that, and that thing's got a good facelift on it. Additionally, you know, I use all these tie downs in here for different things. These are all Charbonnier Designs tie downs, and they've been great. I got some back in the corner back there next to those leaves, and those are super nice. Those are super helpful for anything when we get into a pinch and we gotta tie something down. I can do that, and so that's been really great. Over on this side, I'm not gonna dig out everything that I've kind of put in everything, but in here I have recovery gear, and that's not recovery gear just necessarily for ourselves, but we've run into situations where we had to, you know, pull friends out of specific areas, and it's been super nice to have all that, because otherwise I probably, even if I wasn't even into this thing we call off-roading or overlanding, I probably wouldn't be keeping that in here. Additionally, let's see what we're working with. I do have at all times the Morflate quad hose. That's for during when I'm off-roading, it's for airing down the tires, but if I'm with friends or anything and we need to put more air or less air because the temperatures change throughout the seasons, we can do that. And on the other side, I guess I could come over here and show you guys, I have the compressor, which probably has my sweat rag on it for running, but we have a compressor right there. So right there, we already have one piece of recovery equipment. Up top here, we have this little 4-foot awning by Front Runner. It's not the biggest awning, it's not a 270, it just simply comes out. We've used that at different running events that I've been to in the past, and that's been super great. If we come up top, we do have the high boost signal booster. Let me move this back here to its correct spot. And this has been great. I actually propped this up just a few days ago. I went on a run and I was trying to check something out on my running app, and all I had to do was tilt this up and turn on the signal booster inside the truck, and I was good to go. So that's like another nice thing that I had with me for the day, on the day rather. And of course you always have your recovery equipment. Recovery equipment, depending on where you live, could be more of like a, hey, I use this just for off-roading, or it could be used for, you know, mountain living. Same can be said about the winch. I actually personally, full disclosure, and a lot of people probably would agree, I haven't actually had to use my winch yet. I'm just dying for the day when I myself or someone I know gets stuck and we have to pull someone out. So I don't have AAA, I probably should, but that's like one reason why you may want to use this instead of, let's just say, you know, calling a tow truck. Especially when you're off-roading. We go off-roading way up there quite a lot, and it's super helpful to kind of adventure with confidence. I mean, if you're in a Subaru Outback, you can probably do a lot of the trails up there, but you're not going to have the same level of security and insurance that you do if you have all the gear that we have in this. As I was kind of walking around here, I realized I didn't want this to turn into a whole like what's going on with the truck, what's inside the truck type video. I'll link down below everything I have inside the truck. I made a whole video about it, so if you're interested, check that video out. But essentially what I'm getting at is, do you use everything that your truck is capable of more frequently than not? And if the answer is no, then maybe building it out like this is not the answer for you. Maybe it's a more subtle build where you just have like a tonneau cover or something like that. For us, when I think about, you know, let's just say I wanted to get rid of the tent. I don't have a garage. I'm gonna get to that next. That is something where I'm like, okay, if I got rid of it, when it came time to where I needed it, I'd be upset that I didn't have it. And so that's like something to consider. If there's something you fully can't live without, then you might not want to, you know, have it in there all the time. On the flip side, if it's something you for sure need all the time, then you should probably keep it in here. And when you have a rig built out like this, there's tons of different storage options that'll allow you to do that, which is great. Another thing I see a lot of people missing kind of the point on when in terms of deciding whether this is the right move for you or if this is something that you want full time is your home setup outside of just going off-road and overlanding. For a lot of people, if you have like a garage or something where you can remove your rooftop tent and store a lot of your off-road gear, that's great. That's exactly what you want. For someone like myself, I have to park on the street or in the parking lot, and I've had to kind of learn and build as needed. Because of that, it's something that I've had to kind of toy with in terms of what I want to do with the rig and make it optimal for being a daily driver. I do think that there's something to be said if you do have a garage and a space to kind of store and work on your vehicle. I think it goes a lot longer of a way where you can kind of take the tent off and store a lot of your gear, not in the vehicle all the time. You're kind of removing the preparedness aspect in that sense by doing that. But in general, I think having a garage is optimal as far as if you want a rig like this as a daily driver. I make it work. Just parking on the street, parking lots, things like that, but that's not for everyone. I think if you truly want to have a rig like this as a daily driver, you just need to build and plan accordingly, because at the end of the day, sorry, cut myself off. What I was saying is you can be as careful or as kind of scattered as you want if you have a setup at home that can accommodate all your gear. But if you're parking on the street, you got to keep that in mind, because that's something that you're gonna have to consider if you're living with all this full time. And technically, I think if you have a garage at home where you do offload a lot of the gear that I have on my truck specifically, then that kind of negates the point of the video. So do with which you want. But essentially, I think that if you do have a warehouse, garage, anything like that, the livability in terms of, is this a good daily driver, is going to be a whole lot different than whether you just kind of park it on the street. I think that that's kind of like a half point to, should you or would you want to, or is it a good daily driver? I don't think that really plays into it too much now that I'm thinking about it, but I think in terms of the overall experience, overlanding, off-roading, preparing for trips, things of that nature, it can be a whole lot easier if you do have a home that has a garage. All right, sorry you guys. It's so windy. You probably can't tell, but I kind of nestled myself in between the door and where the wind's coming from. So I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons here. But I think the final one is going to be, you know, is it just you? Is it just you, or do you have a family? Do you have a dog? Do you have other dependents? Because for my wife and I, we have a 60-pound dog, 50. Bucky's about 50 pounds. The truck works great. If we were to expand the family, I think that'd be a little bit of a different story, and that's where you get into Ram F-150 territory. But I think if it's just you, you're in your 20s or younger, or a little bit older like myself, then you really have to consider who the build is for outside of just you doing this as a hobby, because there's other people who are going to you're gonna have to factor that into the way you sleep, the way you transport gear, where the gear goes, how are the back seats managed, things of that nature. So I think overall, I'm kind of leaving it open. Is this a good daily driver? For me, it is. All right, you guys, there we have it. So that concludes my kind of top 3 to 5 reasons why I think this truck for me is a great daily driver. It's not for everyone, but I did want to call out some of the main things that I would consider things to consider when deciding whether or not you want to build out a truck like this, because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's not like driving around a truck with nothing on it. It's not like driving a sedan, but I love it. I love it from the road feel that I get now, the capability when I'm going camping, the off-road confidence that I have in all the additional parts, lights and bumpers, things like that, armor, all of that. So I think the true answer is really, it depends. But for me, I think that having a truck built like this is absolutely awesome as a daily. I feel prepared, I feel ready. I'm always having a good time while I'm driving this thing. And if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop them down below. Give this video a like, get subscribed, and until next time, enjoy the ride.